Ever wonder what sets the winners apart from the losers? And what does it really mean to be a winner? My name is Federico, and I'm a young, successful entrepreneur passionate about sports, business, mindset, and real estate. If you are just like me and you want to crack the code to victory, then Winning Ways podcast is made for you. Yo, welcome back to Winning Ways with Fred. My name is Federico and I am your host. Guys, today I have a stud of a guest. You guys are going to love him. But first and foremost, please, as always, share the show if you find value, if you find it helpful, if you find it funny. That's the way we're going to grow the show. Even when it becomes a top 3 show all time, I will grow it via word of mouth, no ads. So now, with no further ado, Jamie, how are you, man?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming. So a lot to talk about. We're going to try to get this all in 45 minutes. Let's talk about your journey in real estate. I was looking through your profiles. You have a company, $150 million under management. Walk us through that. How did that happen? How did it start? And where are you going with all that?
Yeah, no. So this is the beauty of partnership. So I don't know, exactly who your audience is, but for me, my story was I was a W-2 guy. I worked for an insurance company for 20 plus years. I was an executive, made a bunch of money, had equity, had all of it. And it was all great, but I hated it. By the end of it, I hated it. So real estate spoke to me and I started to do what a lot of people do, listen to Bigger Pockets episodes and then, buy a single family, then bought a couple of duplexes. And then it was like, wow, multifamily makes more sense, and bought a 16 unit and a 22 unit after that. Nice. But even still, like the pace of acquisition was so slow. And I, as a small time guy, just wasn't getting attention from the brokers, attention from the people in the space that I really wanted to get attention from. Right. So the next thing I did, I joined this community called GoBundance. I'm a member of it. It's a high net worth men's mastermind group. And in that group, I met a guy named Mark Henteman. Mark founded Quantum Capital years and years ago, but it was him and Nick, two guys running this entire show. And one element they didn't have was marketing, capital raising, investor relations, kind of the people side, which is my thing. That's what I love. I don't love operations. I don't love turning a property around. I like getting it and then letting somebody else deal with it. And I like talking about it. That's what I like. So to be able to work and partner with those guys in an operation at the time that was actually, I think we're closer to 200 million now. So when I joined a few months back, it was 150. We're pushing 200 million in assets under management is how I get in on that, how I got in on the ground floor of a syndication company. And I think a lot of people have to understand that, especially if they're stuck in a job or whatever. If you add value in the market, if you have something that you're really great at and you allow yourself to be great at that, even though you can't see the path to monetization right away, your abilities will get recognized if you put yourself in the right situations. And for me, joining a community, being around other investors, other men that have high net worth, and partnering with one of them was a path forward for me that I just didn't anticipate when I bought that first single family home, 5-6 years ago.
5-6 years ago. Wow. I thought it was a while back ago. So just to answer your question and to go on to the next question, my audience is primarily young men, 18 to 30-year-olds. And they're in the shoes of, so you started right now saying about a single family and then you realized multifamily was better, which it is. Well, you got to start somewhere, right? You don't jump. Well, 100%. Grant Cardone jumped into $1 million apartment unit right away, but most don't. Most start in a single family home. So walk us through that. You started in a single family home. How did that go? And what was your transition to multifamily?
Yeah. So the single family was actually an accidental landlord situation. So I say 5-6 years ago, because I intentionally bought real estate for the first time 5-6 years ago. Okay. My first one was a home I owned in New York. Upstate New York, before I got promoted and moved to Boston. It was 2008, and there was just no getting rid of that house at that point. The market had crashed and the values had gone down. Yeah. So that house for a good decade, if not more, 15 years, 14 years, was just a liability for me. I was career focused, not investment focused. And only when I looked at, okay, well, I don't love what I'm doing anymore. What's something I could do? And I found real estate. I'm like, oh, well, hell, I'm already a real estate investor. I have this property. So let me stop thinking of it like this albatross. Let me actually put systems around it. Let me not let the tenant double up next month because they can't make their rent this month. All the mistakes, all the things that you do wrong, I did wrong with that property. Okay. But then I realized, wow, I have experience with that now. And that's when we bought the next 2 properties, which were 2 duplexes. So the first intentional purpose was 2 duplexes, both distressed. I used a home equity line of credit on our existing home that we owned to put the down payment down and fund the CapEx. We're a little short still. I actually took like a private loan from my parents to help with the remainder of the CapEx. And then we proceeded to underestimate timelines, underestimate damages, or the work that needed to be done for the next year and a half. So our initial intent was $35,000 to do both of these properties, which were both from the same distressed seller. We bought them for $170,000 combined. So our intention was $35,000 and 6 months. It ended up being more like 18 months and $80,000 that we put into it. So when I did the Burr method and got money back out of it, I was able to pay off everything, including my parents, and we left like $2,000 in it. Initial projections that we were going to walk away with an extra $10,000, but we left $2,000 in those 2 properties. But again, learned a ton. Learned how much a sewer line is. Learned how much COVID can impact a small market like that. So we've since moved on from those properties. But yeah, learned a lot in that.
Yeah. So now that you've had the experience in the smaller market, now you're in the big boy market. What's the big difference? Because Grant Cardone and all these big guys always talk about that it's not that different. It's just bigger numbers. So can you attest to that, or is it more work? Would you say?
No, it's less work. It's less work because when you get into the commercial space, when you're buying multifamily or anything that's 5 units plus is what I call commercial financing space. The ability to fund the deals and the requirement of the bank to have a bunch of elements present almost require you to have a team. So as a single family investor, single duplex, triplex, quadplex, you got to get a regular loan. They're going to look at your credit. They're going to look at your debt to income. They're going to look at you specifically. And unless you've owned, for most banks, the properties for a couple of years, they're not even going to count the rents that you're taking in as income for you. So if you're not making all that much, you're going to quickly run into a DTI problem on the single family realm. Multifamily and bigger markets and all of that, the market really doesn't even matter. But the idea of buying bigger, so now the bank is going to require that the owner, the person buying the property, has liquidity, has net worth to cover the debt, has experience as an investor, and a bunch of other elements. So if all you have is some experience managing some single family properties, you could probably check that box as the owner of the property, but the other boxes need to be checked. And what's great is they don't care about your credit. They don't care about your debt to income, none of that. The business of that property just needs representation across these requirements that the bank has. So you find a partner who has net worth. You find a partner who has liquidity. Maybe the same person has both, who knows? But you're able to team up and take that deal down together. And then even from a managing expenses, raising rents, there's more of a formulaic approach to value versus, that other house down the street sold for this. It's way less impacted, I think, by just the market and more formulaic as far as evaluating. So I think it's actually easier to go commercial. In fact, one thing that blocks people from quitting their job, they're like, if I don't have my W-2, then I can't get loans. It's like, well, then you must not be in commercial. You must be only doing singles and doubles and triples. And that's all you're doing. But if you go into the commercial space, your job doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. Wow. And it's that misconception that's out there that commercial is harder. It's just bigger. So the numbers are bigger and it's a little more intimidating. Now, you said you joined a mastermind and you met the owner of Quantum and then you helped him, right? So you came in, you provided value. So I guess the question here is, someone like myself, I'm 27 years old. I'm in your shoes 6 years ago, where I have a couple single family homes that are rented. I flip here and there, but my goal and my idea is to be in the big leagues of multifamilies, do a syndication and all that. So step one, join a mastermind, surround yourself with these type of people and provide value. In your case, what was your approach to it, to partner up with him? Because he's ahead of you, right? It's a little intimidating to go up and be like, hey man, I'm Jamie. I can provide value. No,
I've never asked for a partnership. So I have 2 partners that are fairly prominent. One is David Osborne, who wrote a book called Wealth Can't Wait, $200 million net worth, private jet, well-known guy, biggest Keller Williams owner in the country. Nice. He asked me to partner. The other is Mark Henteman, the owner of Quantum Capital, which, by the way, on the side, for 22 years, he's been a writer for Family Guy. He's been a writer on TED 2, just wrote the Naked Gun reboot. Like he's Seth MacFarlane's boy. Like these guys, he is, and he built this thing on the side, right? So these are two very prominent partners that both asked me to partner. And I don't say that from a place of ego. I say that from a place of what you just talked about. So I think the question you're asking is, all right, I'm 25, 30, 35, whatever age it might be. And I'm getting into this space, couple single family, maybe three. And I'm trying to kind of bump up and understand how do you effectively network to get there?
Yeah.
So here's the answer to that. One, you have to be intentional with who you surround yourself with. I am a big advocate for paying for proximity. I think once you get into that 35, 40-year-old range, time and money flip. So when you're 20, 25, 30, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, right? I'm going to make sure I mow the lawn for this property. I can take care of repairing that bathroom. Man, you hit 35, 40, you're typically making a little bit more money and you're realizing that time is becoming more compressed. So I pay for efficiency. So I don't have the time to go out and find a whole bunch of the kinds of people I want to hang out with. So I'd rather plunk down $10,000, $20,000 a year and have those people right there in a room where I can go see them. Yeah. But if you can't, find a real estate meetup local to you. Find any real estate meetup local to you. What people normally do is they find one, they get excited, they go, and then they find an excuse not to go the second month. And then, oh, shoot, man, I wish I could the third month, but I got this conflict. Mm-hmm. But if you go, whether you paid for it or not, and you show up consistently every month, and you're looking for ways to provide value. So here's what you don't do, in my opinion. Don't walk up to somebody and say, man, I see what you're doing out there, all this stuff. Like, how can I add value to you? I appreciate your insight just now. Like, how can I help you? How can I add value? Terrible question. I don't like the question. It doesn't make any sense. In fact, you're burdening the person that you're asking with them now having to come up with something that you can help them with. Yeah. But if you're listening in that situation and you're hearing this person talk about their business and not thinking, oh, what can I get here? Oh, how can I want to just be like that. Like, oh, I got to get in this guy's world. Like, calm down, listen. They might be talking about certain aspects that they're struggling with. And then you can offer up, if you've got some skill, ability, time, whatever it might be, specifically to address that need. So for instance, when I met Mark Henteman was a guy who was like, man, yeah, we're closing deals. Before I didn't want to be involved in quantum. I had my own thing going, right? But he's like, yeah, we got all these deals and everything. And he's kind of introverted, but he's looking to raise capital. I'm like, oh man, by the way, if I can help you, I got like 3 guys that are connected to wealth advisors who are looking for exposure to commercial multifamily real estate. Do you mind if I connect you to those guys? Oh, that would be great. So I managed that connection, but I offered specific value against his needs. So if I'm a 25-year-old and I'm like, well, I don't have any experience with this or that or whatever it might be, listen to the operator. The operator might be looking for more of a social media presence. You might have that if you're 25. You might have experience or skill with that. Maybe digital marketing, or maybe they're just, man, I don't have enough time in the day. And you're like, well, I got a job and I'm single, no kids. I'll make time. Hey, if I can I come to your office and help you out with the things you just talked about? It's on me. All I want is just to be in your world and understand what you do, but let me do that for you if you're open for it, right? Offer specific value. When you do that and don't expect any return, these folks will ask for you to come in with them. That's the true nature of it. I look at Brandon Turner. Do you know Brandon Turner?
Yeah, Bigger Pockets.
Brandon Turner. He's a friend. He's in GoBundance as well. So I've gotten to know him through that. There's a guy named Ryan Murdoch. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Okay. Ryan Murdoch is his right-hand guy. Ryan lived in Maine, heard that Brandon 7-8 years ago was looking for mobile home parks, and messaged him saying, hey man, actually I got one that fits the criteria you were talking about right here in Maine. If you want to take a look at it, I'll go get pictures, whatever you need. And Brandon took him up on it. Well, eventually Ryan said, you know what, I'm going to move to Hawaii and I'm going to live in Brandon Turner's guest home or guest room or whatever the case may be. Yeah. And he just added value to his life, almost as his assistant. Like, yeah, I'll take care of that, Brandon. I see what you need. I'll take care of it. Well, eventually Brandon started Open Door Capital, which currently is about $500 million in assets under management. You know, the guy Brandon went to say, hey man, I need somebody to start this and be the first CEO of this thing. It was Ryan Murdoch. Now Ryan doesn't even do anything in that business. He sits on the board, and his net worth, his reach, his lifestyle have expanded dramatically because he offered specific value to somebody that, he saw as needing value and didn't expect anything in return. Nothing in return. Story after story I could tell you of that. And that's my story. So that's what I would recommend.
Dude, I feel like I'm in a coaching call. I've learned so much right now. And it's true. It's true though. It's true. And it's right. It feels like it's common sense, but when it comes to that moment, I'll be completely honest. I've done exactly what you've told me. We just said not to do. I've gone up to the investor. Hey man, I see you've done this, that. I'm a wholesaler, but this was, I mean, back in the day, but I've done that, right? And it never worked out ever.
Yep.
It's like,
we've all done it. I still do it now every so often. Like, hey man, how can I help you out? And I'm like, as soon as I say it, I'm like, man, I'm going against my own advice here, right? It's easy to, you want to be helpful. There's a pureness to it, but the best way you can, I would, if you're going to ask that question, I would just hold on to it and say, hey, if you're open for coffee, I'd love to learn more about what you're doing and see if there's any way that I can help you. That would be a way better response than how can I add value? Because again, I've had that question and I'm like, I don't know, man, like my back's sore. I need a massage. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you can do. I don't know what you are, what you do. I have no idea what skills or capabilities you have. So
yeah. No, I get that. Now that you're putting it that way, I see how it could be the question where you're like, all right, man, I don't know. Like, leave me alone. But I get that.
Leave me alone. But I'll say like, hey man, it's great to have a conversation, or, hey, follow my social feed, whatever. Like I'm glad that they do. I'm not saying it's a throwaway, but it's just, I can't answer those questions for you. And again, you're shifting the burden, which feels great for you, but the exact opposite of what you want to do in that situation. You want to relieve burdens for this person. And if you do that enough, you get a call like I did. Hey, Jamie, look, man, we don't have like a connector presence. Your ability to connect is beyond anybody I've ever met. How about you join me as a general partner with Quantum? I'm like, wait, so I don't have to go out and find deals anymore because they all come to you, and I can be on the side of the business that is just people interaction and not worry about operations. Yeah. In fact, I had a 22 unit under contract with my partner, Ben, at that exact moment that we wholesale to another buyer. We're like, no, we're out of that. I don't even want that now. Let's go do this instead.
I get that. No, I would too, for sure. That's awesome. That's such a great story all around. And now this goes back, because I was watching your reels earlier. That last one you posted, for a young person, right? Like 25, 26-year-old, starting to get into it. When you join a mastermind, and I've done this, and I related to it, where it's like you join a mastermind, and you passively do it. You're passively interacting with people, rather than what you made the point of being the star people, and making sure that you can be the guy, the best one, and that way you attract people like in your case that are going to want a partner with you because what you're showing them.
Yeah, absolutely. I call that be the testimonial, right? That's kind of the idea of it. If you go on any, somebody out there's looking at, there's so many programs out there and great ones, right? Like a multifamily mastermind group, and it's $20,000 to join it. Like, oh my God, that's everything I have. And look, I say invest in you. In fact, I just saw Alex, Alex Hormozy? Yeah. So
I don't know him. I wish I knew him, but I know.
So he put up a post recently. It was something like, don't worry about the S&P, invest in the S and me. So in other words, he's saying whatever money you have, if you're people ask that, like, well, if I only have $5,000, what do I do? And I think the answer people are looking for is like, oh, I go crypto or some specific asset. If I had $5,000 and nothing else, I'm finding the community that cost me $5,000, and then maybe on credit for the rest of it. And I'm investing in me. I'm investing in my network and my skills. Because at the end of the day, if everything comes crashing down around me, if my businesses fail and real estate doesn't work, the equity I own is my relationship equity. That's the true safety net that I have. So investing in that is way more important. So being the testimonial, when I joined GoBundance, I come into this group of millionaires. I'm, a millionaire, I guess, on paper, but I'm not, some baller. And some of these guys are making $1, $2, $3 million every 6 months, let alone their net worth being in the 8-9 figures. Yeah. And you're just sitting there like, what am I going to do here? Like, how do I add value here? Like, what the hell? I don't belong here. But when you get over that and you realize, look, I'm not here for vacation. Vacation's where I go for comfort. I'm here for growth, and growth equals discomfort. So this feeling of discomfort is actually a good thing. So let me reframe my entire way of being with this community. And I do belong, and it's going to be uncomfortable. And that's the only way I'm going to grow. You got to get that in your mindset. Once I did that and got deeper and more embedded, and then even went to the founders of GoBundance and said, guys, what is the number one thing you're working on right now? They're like, oh, look, we're looking for a program to build future millionaires. A lot of people want to be in GoBundance. They don't qualify, younger, whatever it is, not quite there on net worth. So we'd love to build something. I'm like, I would love to do that. Like, great, let's partner. And I built it. So that's what Emerge and Ascend is, a couple of my businesses that I own. So like that stuff is what made me, say, hey, I'm going to add value wherever I can. And yeah, I sort of became the star pupil or the testimonial for GoBundance at this point. In fact, if you listen to the podcast, the Tribe of Millionaires podcast is the GoBundance podcast, and I host it. So became the star pupil in that community. And I advocate for that. If you're going to put money or time or energy into something, into a program, a coaching program, a mastermind group, a community that's specific to the kind of asset you're trying to invest in, go in there with the idea and don't go up like, I want to be the testimonial. How do I do it? Like, I don't know, man. Show up, do what you got to do. Right. But go in and do the work, take action, get uncomfortable. And eventually, if you are the testimonial in that group, that only serves you on the trajectory that you're trying to go towards. So I always say that, be testimonial.
Yeah, and I think it comes down a lot to your mindset, right? And how you want to attack certain situations. Let me ask you this, right? You seem very successful your whole life. You said you're in insurance, you build equity in there, you were making great money, and then you switched over to real estate because you didn't like your job, which is great, man. I mean, you've won along the way. Now, to have these wins, I personally believe that you need to have certain habits, certain rituals or disciplines, gym, meditation, reading, and all that. Can you walk us through that? What your habits or rituals or certain things you do that keep you in this state with this energy to continue growing and crushing?
It's a great question. And I would reframe what you said. I haven't always had success. I've had money. I've made money over my entire life, but success is not to me making money in exchange for something that doesn't fulfill me or something that I don't really care about. And then take 20 years to figure out, you know what, I should probably be doing something different because this is not aligned with me. To me, that's the opposite of success. Right. So, and I know what you mean. Financial success. Sure. I've been very fortunate to fund a life for my family and, do some really cool stuff and, now moving on to another country and all that good stuff. But the habits you're talking about, first and foremost, I think you do need to meditate, get deep, figure out a way to get to your intuition. I think that's what it really is about. Your intuition will guide you. It will tell you where you need to go, even if where you need to go doesn't seem at all aligned with what the focus or the goal that you have is. By going forward with what your intuitive voice or your intuitive guidance is telling you, it will create abundance in all areas of life. So for me, I squelched, numbed, drank, ate, went on vacation away from the intuitive guidance I was getting for 20 years not to do this job until it was just too much. And I didn't do that job anymore. And my relationship was better and my health got better. And, it opened up things that I had been working on. Like, well, I want my health. I got to go to the gym and do this diet. Well, no, I needed to quit the job, right? I had the same thing with a relationship I ended years and years ago, 3 weeks before the wedding, called it off. And from after that, everything else that I wanted started to happen because I followed my intuitive guidance. So tapping into that through meditation is one habit that I have and one habit I'd recommend. Calm is a great app. At brain.fm is another great app if you need just some noise for meditation. So that's one. Two is every week, every Sunday, I sit down and plan my week. So there's a couple of things I do in that ritual. First is I recall my vision. I have a 3 to 5 year vision for myself. And again, it's no how in that. There's no like, oh, here's how I'm going to achieve it. Nope. This is just what I envisioned for my life in 3 to 5 years. It's well written out. It's 5-6 pages long. And I wrote out every detail as if it already happened. So I put myself on that date at some point, meditated into it and said, all right, this is what it looks like, not what it will look like, but what it does look like. So I'll recall that vision every week on a Sunday. I go to a coffee shop. Then I go through and I look at my prior week, kind of celebrate the wins, whatever those might be that I feel like I had that prior week. And then look at, hey, what are some things I need to pick up on? And why didn't I? Is there a reason I didn't do the things I said I was going to do? Like, is it informing me like, you know what, this doesn't matter. I shouldn't be doing it. Or no, this is going to make you uncomfortable, but it's necessary. So I look at that stuff. Then what I'll do is brain dump. I'll write out everything that's on my mind. Go to the store to get this, meeting with so-and-so on Tuesday, learn Spanish, fix the light bulb in the bathroom, like whatever's on my brain, just get it all out on paper. And after that, I'll chunk them together. So I'll do I'll put like a 1 next to the first thing and anything else that's similar to it. And then a 2 next to the next thing. So I'll have like 3 or 4 different lists, if you will, at the end of it. Those to me are my time blocks. And then I dump them into my calendar for the week. So that ritual every week allows me to look at my vision, what goals I have in the long term, like a year, how I'm setting those goals to achieve the long-term goal and vision this quarter, this month, this week, and then lay out the week for myself. So meditation on the front end and that on the back end have been 2 habits that have served me very, very well over the years.
Every day.
Planning every Sunday. Meditation every day, every weekday. I have kids, so like on the weekends we try to sleep in and just play with them. But yeah, during the weekday when I'm in my flow, I'll do my meditation in the morning, and then I'll do the planning on Sundays.
And I that's awesome. And I think a lot of it comes down to discipline, right? because
Oh yeah.
it's taking the time, right? Setting the time aside. Meditation takes 10 minutes. It could even be 5 minutes if you're just starting off, or 3 minutes if you're just starting off. But that Sunday ritual probably takes you 30 to an hour. And it's that blocking, maybe more.
Yeah. Maybe more, 1 to 2 hours typically.
Give or take, right? But that's time.
Yeah.
That's taking off your kids, your wife, your family, and all that. And it's the discipline that wanting to grow. That's awesome. And thank you for that. Now, you told me earlier you were moving to Dominican Republic.
Yeah. Yep. End of this month, end of August. Yeah.
Has that been like a dream of yours to move to another country?
The dream has always been lifestyle freedom, the ability to do whatever it is we want when we feel like we want to. So I don't think we specifically targeted the Dominican. My wife's from there, so it's kind of easy, but no, it was never like, oh, we want to move to the Dominican. It was just, I don't want to be locked down to any one place. I want my life to be designed around complete geographic freedom.
And that's for you success.
Yeah. For me, that is because, look, my kids are 7 and 4. Okay. So we're making this move. We went in January for a month. We spent half of it with family, like my wife's cousins and uncles and aunts or whatever. And then half of it on the resort. And our kids were just so comfortable there. So I don't know if anybody's had that experience where it's like, man, it would be nice to be able to experience more of this, but I got to get back and clock in. Right. I hated that. So for us, it was like, all right, we did this for a month. We didn't need to come back other than, our dogs are with our parents or whatever. I had a couple of responsibilities to come back for. But after that month, it was like, you know what? It was great. Our kids were so comfortable around their family. They're 7, they're 4. They're not 12 and 10 where they've got this, they're in, major sports at this point or embedded with their friends. Yeah. Our kids don't go to traditional school either. We don't believe in traditional schools. So we use alternate schools like Acton Academy for our kids' education, which allow us flexibility as well. Again, everything in our life is designed around lifestyle freedom. So we made the decision like, why don't we go do this for a year? Maybe we'll do it for 2, get the experience, get the exposure. I can finally learn Spanish. The kids can get, fully immersed in another culture, another language. So part of the design of life was I don't need to be in one place because I'm not on the operational side of my real estate business. My online education business is exactly that. It's online. And the podcast that I host is also mostly virtual. I do some in person, but mostly virtual. So there's no reason why we can't. And my wife doesn't work. She doesn't have a job. She does some training at a gym locally here and there. But so why not? So it's more of a culmination of the idea of being lifestyle free, which I truly believe most people is when they say I want financial freedom, they really want lifestyle freedom. Yeah. I don't call myself financially free. We make some passive income, but I work for my money still. Right. So financial freedom, especially if you're making, 200, 300, 400 grand a year, that's a lot to make up passively. And it just feels so daunting, but I can design a life right now doing things that really serve me and that I love, that I'm fulfilled by, that lets me be lifestyle free while I build, further financial freedom. So that was sort of the objective.
That's great. I mean, and winning and success, because now your real estate has given you the ability to leave your job and now go live in another country for a year, try it out, have your kids experience. That's great, man. Quick question on that I'm curious on. When you said the kids schooling, what's that school that you're putting them in? The arts, what was it?
Oh, Acton Academy, Acton, not acting, but Acton Academy.
Okay. So what's the primary difference there between?
Oh my goodness. There's no grades, there's no homework, there's no tests. And for a lot of people, they'd be like, well, how do you know? Whatever. Right. But the idea behind education is this is what I went through in traditional education is sit down, stand up when that thing rings, listen and hear what I say, and then recall it without any help from anybody else. And at the end of that, I'll tell you what you are. You're an A, you're a B, you're a C. Real world doesn't work like that. I'll ask you, at work, have you ever been told, I need this project done, but you have to do it on your own and you cannot consult with anybody else and get any advice or get the answers you need in completing that project? Has that ever happened to you?
No, never.
But in school, for some reason, we do that. Oh, no, close the book, test, make sure the kid knows what they're doing. And if they don't, you're an F, you're a failure. That literally is what we say to our kids. Yeah. So here's what Acton Academy is. Acton Academy is the Socratic method, which means good questions are asked of the kids on a daily basis, and the kids guide their own curriculum. In fact, the teacher's not a teacher. They're called a guide. So here's what a day at Acton looks like. My kid goes in, they start the day with circle. The topic might be growth versus fixed mindset. And the guide has a discussion and asks questions. What does growth mindset mean to you? What is fixed mindset? Here are some other questions to get the kids talking about it. 6, 7, 5 years old, right? Yeah. once they go through a day, they explore their own curiosity. One day they explored beatboxing because they're curious about it. Another day it was the planets. Another day it was something scientific. I can't remember, right? But they go through, they explore their curiosity, and the guide is there to help them. When there's conflict, the kids call what's called a town hall, bring all the kids together, and the kids address one another in that.
No way.
Not teacher, Tommy told me I'm a jerk. Tommy, you don't say that, right? The guide is there to help and facilitate, but the kids do that. When one guide left and another guide came in, the owner of the school and the kids decided on who the guide was going to be for them. It's their studio. It's their school.
Wow.
So the learning experience is completely different. And how I know it works, at least for us, I asked my now 7-year-old when he was 6, hey, what's the number one thing you're getting from acting? He said, failure. Like, well, what do you mean failure, buddy? He goes, you're going to lose, but you have to learn from those losses in order for you to win. So failure is necessary. I didn't figure that out till 40. So yeah, it's an amazing style of education, which, by the way, when I moved to the Dominican, that life experience, that's actually encouraged and welcome. Like, absolutely, we can support them from back here. Now, we might put them in a Montessori locally because the one thing we don't get with that is Spanish. Like, we want to put them in a Spanish environment. But the option is there where we could easily do the education from afar and do it virtually by leveraging the local acting school that we use. So
that's great. I hadn't heard about the schooling, and it's awesome though, because it's preparing them for real life.
Again, who you surround yourself with, right? You get around a whole bunch of millionaires who you're looking at and saying, man, a lot of them in real estate, like, wow, how are they living this life? One common theme is, our kids are in alternative education. And it just so happens the most common one is Acton Academy.
That's that's so crazy. Because it's what you said is on point. When you're in school, what do you do? I mean, when I was in school, I hated school. I couldn't stay still. I couldn't stay still. Elementary, my mom was called every week, at least twice, to pick me up because I couldn't stay still.
You weren't in the box. You weren't fitting the box. This is what you're supposed to be. And that's not who you are. You're bigger, you're different, you're whatever. You're you. You're a special kid, right? You're a special being like anybody else, but you're boxed in. And I remember distinctly thinking, and I didn't have the confidence to say it then, but when I was 14, 15, if I got a C+ or a D in, I don't know, Machiavellian history or some crap like that. I remember it being like, cool. But like the teachers and everybody else, wagging their finger at me, and I'm like, wait a minute, I passed, right? Like, yeah, but if you apply yourself, you could have done more. I'm like, yeah, but there's a diminishing return. Like, I'm applying myself in something I could give two shits about, or I could actually apply myself in things that I have feel fulfilling to me, that I'm on purpose with, that can actually serve me in my life. I'd rather do that. But a D is with the amount of effort, which was more than I ever wanted to give, and I passed what you said I needed to, I'm good. But that's not what you're taught at that age. No, you need to get A's in everything, and the stress and the pressure, and I mean, we could go on about this all day because it goes to beg the question, hey man, is traditional schooling the right path for everyone? I think it is for people that are going to medicine, engineering, lawyer, but for people into real estate, my degree was economics, and I don't do anything with economics. Right. And nor do I have any friends from high school. Exactly. I agree completely with you. There's reasons for specific education. I want my engineer to have the right degree. I want the doctor that's working on me to have been trained and has the education they need. I am not anti-education, but I am this 100+ year experiment that we've had of traditional school built by the Rockefellers to teach kids, and I don't think with any malice, to teach kids how to operate in a time where when you left school, the best jobs were factories. So what do they do at factories? Bell goes off, bell ends, you sit down, you sit up, you stand up, you sit down, you listen to the authority, your boss, your teacher, right? Like, you're right, you're wrong, you're good, you're bad, you get a grade, you get a raise. It's school was constructed for that. And we are way beyond that at this point. So
I mean, but it's like everything's evolving in life, right? And school, the schooling system really hasn't, in a way. It has over the last couple of years, but in essence, we're learning the same thing. I mean, 100%. Most kids are learning the same every year. Like, kindergartners are learning the same thing they were learning 10, 15 years ago, unless you're in the school that you put your kids in. So that's great. Something I'm definitely going to consider whenever I do have kids. Now, I don't want to hold you here too long, but this question, I really want to know. One, what your 5 to 10 year plan looks like, and two, do you do public speaking?
I do. I've done a little bit.
You could tell. I feel like that's something like the next 5, 10 years, you're going to be one of those guys. Ed my leg, Jamie, because you speak
Wow,
really
man.
well, man. You have that energy that, you've pumped me up this whole call. Like, I'm sure my audience
No,
is pumped up.
that means a lot. No, I appreciate that. Where do I see myself 5, 10 years? That's a good question. I've been doing a lot of introspection lately, especially around the pull versus push, right? And what I mean is, my whole life has been push. Set a goal, go after the goal. And what I'm learning as I get a little older, and I've even dabbled in some psychedelics like psilocybin, that sort of thing, to really get at, what is this? What is this? What's the block I feel, generally on certain things when I'm going after it. And a big thing for me is I tend to push toward an outcome as opposed to allowing the outcome to come based on following my intuition now. So I kind of talked about that in the very beginning. So where do I see, if I set the vision for 5 to 10 years from now, my vision is that, I'm more immersed in the brand side of things, of what I do. So if I had to give a name to it, you mentioned Ed Milet, Gary Vee, something like that. Like I've learned and have come to grips, I guess, with the idea that my gift, the thing that I'm blessed with, is the ability to inspire and motivate others to live their best life, because I'm living mine, right? So I'm doing it through action. I've been blessed with the ability to communicate it effectively with energy, as you mentioned. So thanks for that recognition. And utilizing that gift used to feel like ego only. And now I know that, well, it is okay that it's ego and it serves others. So that's what I see. My goal, my ambition, my vision for my life, if you will, is to just expand this natural energy I was born with, expand this ability to communicate to serve as many people as possible. So if that's speaking or, coaching at a higher level or whatever, I don't know, but I just know that leaning more into the brand of me as opposed to the real estate, to be honest with you, is definitely the direction I'm pulled toward.
Totally. Now, and we don't have to pick at that point that you made, but I find it interesting, man, because it's the topic of psychedelics. And how they're frowned upon in society. But in reality, you look at a person like Steve Jobs, for example, or multiple you could do examples that have done psychedelics, and they don't abuse them. They use it as an experiment to learn about themselves, right? And it's helped them out a bunch, like you said, right?
The big thing for me, look, I grew up, I'm 43 years old, so I was a child of the 80s, right? And in the 80s, you won't remember this, but Nancy Reagan, say no to drugs. I mean, like anything that was other than alcohol, I guess, was considered, you were a demon in society. So I grew up with that weight. This turn for me, because like you, it's like Joe Rogan, interesting, right? All about mushrooms and ayahuasca and all these things. I had never heard of ayahuasca until I watched a Netflix special a few years ago. Joe Rogan, Steve Jobs, Tim Ferriss, some guys that I really admire, and I see the results they have. It's like, that's interesting, but almost. And I've heard this from other people, and I know I thought it before, like these rich dudes and their designer drugs, right? Like, what the hell are they doing with coke, doing blow off of hookers or whatever? But it's not that at all. What turned it for me was I went to an event within GoBundance. So we have 2 levels in GoBundance. There's kind of 1 to 5 mil, and then there's 1 to 10 mil, and then 10 mil plus as a net worth. And I was a guest at a 10 mil plus event. I'm not there yet, but I was a guest at one of those. And these guys, I mean, some of the guys in the room are worth $200, $300, $400 million. And the topic was, well, this is one of the topics for discussion as a mastermind was psychedelics. And the sort of shrugging of the shoulders that I saw in the room around this, the idea of like, well, of course, how do you not explore your own, spirituality? How do you not explore your being? Wow. It just didn't make sense to any of them that you wouldn't. And these are guys now I know. They're not Joe Rogan. They're not Tim Ferriss. They're not guys I admire from afar. Like, these are friends that, I see their life. I know what their life is about. I've been in their homes. I know their wives, their kids, right? Like I know these families, and it became like, okay, I got to explore this a bit more. So for me, my wife and I both were on this journey together. We opted to do psilocybin therapeutically. And what I mean is we found not like a shaman or anything, which is not bad. I don't mean to, that sounded more diminishing than I intended it to, but we found a psychologist, an actual doctor who, an integration specialist who gave us a pre-session, kind of talked us through what psilocybin does, what it is. Psilocybin's mushrooms for people that don't know.
Okay. Thank you. I was going to ask that.
Yeah. So that's eating mushrooms, magic mushrooms.
Okay,
and then a post session where you sort of integrate the learnings. And the whole key to this is an intention. So people have done mushrooms. People have eaten mushrooms because it's fun and you go into a trip and all that stuff. And it's all of that. But the thing that I think is the difference between like being 23 and doing mushrooms because it's fun and hanging out with your friends. And this is setting an intention. In fact, guys or gals that have done mushrooms and may say they had a bad trip, quote unquote, That's not actually true. So a bad trip isn't real. A bad trip is, hey, I'm intending to have a good time, but something really dark came up. But really what mushrooms are revealing for you are the things within your spirituality, the things in your subconscious that are weighing on you that are going to come forward. And sometimes that's dark. Sometimes it's light. Sometimes it's not really either or, but it's just sort of introspection. So if a bad trip is really more that. So we decided to do it therapeutically. And for me, I've done it twice. And it's been kind of a progression of the first time repairing or understanding that the thing blocking me, which was my intention, what's blocking me from the best version of me, was the fact that I kept my ego in check. Like I didn't embrace or partner with my ego. It's like ego is bad. Ego is the enemy. Don't let it get ahead of you because it's going to only do bad things. Yeah. And my ego came after me, in essence, in that first session, saying, look, I'm part of you. Actually, the things that you do that are uncomfortable, it's because I'm allowing you, I'm pushing you forward, or I protect you when somebody else is trying to take advantage of you, right? Like the ego is a part. So I've done a lot of work on that. And the second session, which was recent, was a bit more of a deep introspection on who I am, where I need to go, what true intuition is and how to get there. So I meditate every day, as I mentioned, but before that, meditation was sort of like, all right, I'm supposed to be somewhere. Like there's a frequency I'm supposed to tap into, or, a sense of presence or calm that I'm supposed to feel, but I didn't know where I was going. It'd be like me saying to you, hey, go to that grassy area. And you're like, this one? Like, no, the grassy area. That is grassy, right. Yeah. So now in the last session I did, it really took me to a place of like, oh, okay, this is the whole of me. This is the core of me. So now as I meditate, I know the path back. So I know the GPS route back to that version of me, which is at peace, calm, understanding that whatever the result is going to be. And I just need to tap as closely as I can to my intuition and allow that to guide my next steps. And whatever that guides me toward, I trust the outcomes are there. So that's been a very big shift for me.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. And it's something, it kind of, that part that you told me right now, that you walked into the room and one day they were talking about psychedelics, all these people were like, yeah, I mean, how not? It's crazy to think about because you're taught the opposite growing up, right? And as of late, my mindset has shifted and has become more open-minded. I watched that Netflix documentary you talked about. Yep. I've watched multiple. There's actually a Netflix documentary on different types of psychedelics too. Mushrooms is one of them. And I've opened up because growing up, my family was pretty strict. My dad was like, he drank, but drugs was nothing. It was bad. You're taught nothing. Like,
sure.
If you smell like cigarettes walking in after a party, you're in trouble. Like that's how it was. So I was always really scared. College came about, I was like, okay. But now I'm turning my eye. I'm like, wow, like this could be something interesting. I'm interested in the subject itself. And
I get it. I even hear in your voice that people that are going to be listening to this are going to judge you like, dude, am I hearing you getting into drugs? And they will. Somebody will say that to you.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
But the great book is How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. It chronicles the entire history of psychedelics. Like these mushrooms, MDMA, LSD were being researched heavily in the 20s and 30s for to help people with mental disease.
Yeah.
But as the 50s and 60s came and the hippie movement and all those images of people like at Woodstock, painting themselves and like going into weird places, like the government's like, we can't be funding this anymore. Look at how crazy it is. Yeah. And then that became lumped in with just drug abuse. But what's interesting, and this is scientifically proven, you could read any article about it, psilocybin, ayahuasca, they have no addictive quality. It's not like cocaine or alcohol where you get addicted to it. So there's no addictive quality in these things. And truthfully, if you look at the research on them, they do more to help with mental disease, mental illness than anything else. Ben Greenfield. Have you ever heard of Ben Greenfield?
No.
So Ben Greenfield's a big fitness influencer, and he for a long time was a voice for psychedelics, and he's sort of gone the other way. But when you listen to his reasoning for why he's gone the other way, what he says is like he has more of a biblical reason. He's interpreted the Bible differently recently than he did before. So it put him in conflict in his mind with Christianity. You'd have to listen to his podcast to determine that. But he does still say like, look, but the effects are not like there's no disputing the effects. Like you will tap into your spirituality. You will tap into a piece of you you've never seen before. I look at it this way. Your conscious brain is out in front and you're aware of it. And then you've got this subconscious we talk about. And within that subconscious lies a whole bunch of things directing your day that you don't even know about. Fear, anxiety, intuition, sense of humor, all these different things. when you do these, your conscious brain stays and all these other parts of you just kind of line up next to you and you're even. And now you can feel and see and hear all of it at the same time. Again, that sounds a little bit like a crazy trip, and it is, but it allows you to tap into parts of you that there's no way to do that. Not even meditation can get you to that space like psilocybin can. But again, do it safely, do it with certain people. You can't even overdose on it, honestly, but if you eat too much of it, and you're not going to remember a damn thing. You're just going to sit there kind of like until you come out of it. So,
and that's how bad trips happen.
That's how bad trips happen. Exactly. Yep.
No, that's awesome, man. Thank you for touching on that. Actually, First time I talk about psychedelics in my podcast, and I think it's a subject that people should look into more and not be open-minded, right? Don't abuse it, but look into it more. Jamie, thank you so much, man, for being on the show. I have one last question that I ask all my guests. And it's what's one book that you recommend that's changed your life that you'd recommend?
Outwitting the Devil, Napoleon Hill. Everybody knows Think and Grow Rich. I just finished
reading it.
Yeah. Outwitting the Devil is an incredible. I think it's better than Think and Grow Rich, and most people haven't heard of it. So I would go with that one.
I just finished reading that. That's so funny, and that one opens your eyes big time. That just
right.
Oh my God!
Did you read it or listen to it?
No, I read it.
Okay, I've read it too. Somebody said the Audible is a little bit trippy. I don't know. Really? I've never heard it, but the book itself I've read a couple of times.
The book itself is trippy too, though.
It is.
It's like you're there. And it was written, I believe, in 1938 or so, and we're almost 90 years, and everything's it's what he wrote. It's crazy. It's crazy. Something before we leave too. Something that I would recommend you to watch if you read that book and you enjoyed it. It's this documentary on Amazon called Agenda 2.
The what is it?
Agenda 2.0.
Agenda 2.0.
Yeah. There's Agenda 1 and Agenda 2.0, but one where I've been recommending to people because it opens your eyes a lot to things that are currently going on. But again, Jamie, thank you so much. Where can my audience find you?
By the way, great job adding specific value to me there. Thank you for that. The best place right now is Instagram at the Jamie Gruber. You can find me on all platforms there, but I'm very active on Instagram. And then, if you're interested in hearing from some really, really cool, like Major League Baseball all-stars, basketball players, football players, entrepreneurs, our Tribe of Millionaires podcast has been growing significantly in the last year or so. So go check that out and listen to a couple episodes.
Yes, guys, this will all be on the notes as well. But go follow him, go listen to his podcast. You'll get so much value out of it. I've learned so much from this podcast alone. I can't imagine how much I'll learn just listening to all your shows. Again, thank you so much, man. One of my favorite episodes, and I'm not saying that to make you feel good here. This is one of my favorite episodes. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye. Ever wonder what sets the winners apart from the losers? And what does it really mean to be a winner? My name is Federico, and I'm a young, successful entrepreneur passionate about sports, business, mindset, and real estate. If you are just like me and you want to crack the code to victory, then Winning Wings podcast is made for you.